What is this all about? Why are we being interacted with by this range of physical and non-physical intelligences?
Hello, everybody from Bulgaria, Europe, South America, North America, Australia, and all other known and unknown dimensions, multi-dimensions, and other worlds. We have special guest again, second time, Rodwell. She is from Australia. We talked for first time with her last century, and we had very nice conversation about her experience in practicing uh, regression. I think, if I'm wrong, and basically we talk about the star seeds, about all these kids with that supernatural abilities. Today, I mean, because that was a long time ago, so welcome to Year for Disclosure Bulgaria. People can have more information in everywhere in Google or wherever. But if you want, if it feel good, can you introduce yourself with few words for just in case?
Thank you, Ivan. Once again, lovely to meet you and catch up with you. Just very briefly, my background is as a nurse and a midwife, primarily my profession, but I went into counselling about 35 years ago and worked in a medical practice in England. Moved to Australia in 1991, stayed working with counselling in grief and bereavement, hospice, and family issues. Ultimately, due to my private practice and becoming a clinical hypnotherapist, I decided to work with more multidimensional experiences, working with past lives, working with people on a more spiritual level. And it was when I was doing that someone came to see me who was having contact with non-human intelligences. And that really started me in my specialist area for the last 30 years, where I've worked with about 3,500 families, children, those across the globe that are having experiences. So I'm primarily known now for working with experiences. I've written 2 books, Awakening and The New Human, which document my cases and my work.
Also, I think you're very close with some professors from Harvard University.
Yeah, Dr. Rudy Shield. What happened was it must be about 8 or 9 years now. It must be when I was working in my research, when a gentleman, Ray Hernandez, a lawyer, contacted me, was having experiences where he'd seen his dog healed by an energy being, contacted me and had a kind of download from that experience that he had to look at the more scientific side of this, and asked me to connect him to someone I knew who was an astrophysicist, which was Dr. Rudy Shield, which I did. And Dr. Rudy Shield also connected this gentleman, Ray Hernandez, to Dr. Edgar Mitchell. And we formed the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Free Foundation, where from that, many books have now been brought out. Beyond UFOs was the main one, where we did a survey of 4,200 people, 600 questions globally. And that was really the most incredible survey, because it gave us a whole new insight into what happened with contact and took it into the level of consciousness.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, lately, a lot of stuff happening around the world. I'm not of this part of people who like conspiracy. I'm not conspiracialist. I would like to speak with real people like you, like Ray Hernandez, like Kevin, like Kathy Murden. I mean, Paul Hynek. I mean, all these guys, because they're real. But let me. I mean, actually, I started that project UFO Disclosure Bulgaria not only exactly for UFO, but because there's a lot of stuff around the UFO, and maybe the reason to do that is my friendship with Clifford Stone. Surgeon Clifford Stone, first class. Unfortunately, he passed away. I lost very good friend. We've been friends for more of 8 years, and now I have his archives. And when I have time, I just open a little bit, and I see a lot of documentation, a lot of proofs. I don't know if in the world still have people who don't believe with all this stuff, because everybody filming it. I mean, from everywhere. And Australia is not the is the place. I think I never been in Australia, but I reading from the social medias for the interviews with the people who live over there. Actually, I'm very good friend with Leonie Alpelt.
Yes.
I don't know if you know her.
I do. She lives about 3 hours south of me. We became good friends 10 years ago now. I know about her work because the very first time she started to get involved in this was actually here in Agnes Water, with my daughter and my grandsons, working with the children. So I know her extremely well. She's a very good friend.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And when I talk with her, with another, I mean, from last century again, she showed me videos with this paranormal activities. She said, "Oh, every day, every night, above my house, flying UFOs." I mean, it's something normal for us. I mean, we have paranormal. I mean, her mom, her grandma, everybody's involved with all this stuff, and they live with that. So that is not something weird or strange. It's normal. It's completely normal events. What's new? What new stuff happening in Australia? I mean, you're something like a representative of all this society.
Well, all I can say is that because I think now there's been a consensus on the governmental level to at least release some information about this reality. Everywhere now, everybody seems to be taking, video of UFOs and what across the globe. I mean, it seems to be everywhere. Orbs, the UFOs, plasma ships, all this kind of thing. You and I know that this has been there all the time, but there seems to be a big uncovering or awakening to this. And this has meant it's being talked about more on the news, the mainstream news and what have you. But what it's also done more than anything, Ivan, it's brought people in the last few years, particularly, to start talking about their experiences more openly. And more people have contacted me. Every day I get new emails, every single day, of people that have had experiences that maybe have never talked about it most of their lives, and maybe in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s or 80s, and said, I've never talked about this, but I feel I need to now. There's a kind of groundswell of people that now want to talk about it because they feel, I think, it's time, or they feel safe to do so. And that's been the big, what I call the awakening, really, of the public. I know they've been waking up on many levels, but this awakening, and also awakening to accepting more of their awareness, their multidimensional awareness, whereas they wouldn't talk about that because they're afraid people think they're crazy, and I see spirits, or I see orbs, or I feel presences and what have you. They may have, many of them are having downloads of information. You were talking about Kevin, talking about, getting information through in a relaxed state. Many of them are having this happen. Spontaneous information, scientific information in regards to origins, strange symbols and scripts and languages, where they call them light languages, and this kind of thing. And so my work has been not only to help them if they've had an experience and they want to explore it on a deeper level through their subconscious. Others say, well, what do I do about all this? How do I manage this telepathic connection? What does it mean? Who am I working with? You know, who are these beings? What's my connection to them? You know, why me? All those questions. So some of the time I'm helping them manage that kind of awareness that Kevin talks about, you know, who's clairvoyant, clairaudient, mediumistic. Many of them become more mediumistic and are seeing more. And what they're saying is, if I'm not crazy, how do I manage all of this? How do I deal with it in a way which is grounded and I can trust? So that's been a lot of my work too, is showing them how to work with it so that they're not afraid of it and have confidence in it.
How many percent of these experiencers, they have a bad experience, they dramatize, or it's a normal contact or normal experience?
Well, I'll go back to our survey, which I think was the most profound, because we have there's been no other survey like it in terms of its depth. When you think of 4,200 people, you want to know, okay, how many were traumatized? How many were in fear? And this kind of thing. How many saw it like Kevin did as an amazing thing that's part of his connection to these star beings? What we discovered, although many started out very fearful, was 85% had a psycho-spiritual transformation, which was positive in every sense of the word, changed their lives in a positive way. They became less materialistic. They cared more about the planet. They wanted to change their way of living. They wanted to live more holistic lifestyles, feeling very connected to everyone in a very loving, gentle way. There was only 15% that was still in a very much a fear place, that it was bad or evil. That, I believe, also connects to something else, which is because not all contact has been through non-human intelligences. Some of them have been abducted by other agencies, which I believe may very well qualify for that fear base. But if you've got 85% of people that believe that it's changed them in a positive way, we're seeing primarily benevolent interactions, because otherwise it wouldn't be that kind of outcome. The other thing people need to realize is that 50% of that 4,200 people had healing experiences on board craft, where they were healed of various illnesses. And Preston Dennett talks about that in UFO Healings, and he's written a couple of books on enormous number of people that have had wonderful, positive healing experiences on board craft. And the other point I want to make with this, Ivan, is that what people don't understand is through our survey that 75% of contact or encounters is out of body, not physical. So only 25% actually their whole physical body goes. Most of the time it's their consciousness, their astral body that's going to these craft. And these are things that have come through our survey that are not widely known within the UFO community, because they're still very much into the nuts and bolts and what's solid and what's 3D. Whereas we're not talking about that. We're talking about something that's about expanding consciousness.
Mm-hmm. When you're talking about interdimensional and multi-dimensions, what kind exactly is this beings are? Did they have a physical bodies, or actually who are they?
It's a good question, Ivan, and I think this is more of the complexity of this phenomenon. Is it's not just physical intelligences that we're interacting with. There are many that are physical, and actually most people see humanoids, not the little grey zetas at all. The first one that comes up is humanoids, looking just like us often. And many of them are on our planet, and you would never know that they were not human. But we also have interdimensional, extra-dimensional, trans-dimensional beings from our future, and they will come as a presence or a frequency. Some of them can manifest a form, but some will say, I saw this light being, which some might say, well, I think it was an angel, because they were more religious. Someone else will say it's a light being, but they will feel a presence or a frequency, because we've got intelligences in all the dimensions, all the levels of reality, not just the physical reality, which everyone thinks that they're all coming from a physical universe. No, they're not. Some are coming from other dimensions. So it's a lot more complex than I think people realize.
Paul Hynek, he's also a very good friend of me. Once he says that there is because there's a C5
Yeah.
close encounter, fifth kind, sixth kind. He said there's 11, 12 kinds.
Yeah.
So he's talking about this interdimensional and multidimensional worlds. And because I had very strange experience long time ago, and I talk with many people, people who doing this research and talking with another people who have who doing work like you, and they said probably there's two options for you. Probably you being in contact with yourself from another dimension. And then I have a question now about this. I'm very curious, and I still asking questions, looking for answers. If that, with few words, short story, I was probably 18 or 19 years old. I walk in the street in the city in Bulgaria, and nobody was on the street, nobody walking, just me. It was maybe 1 p.m., something like this, summertime. And I saw myself walking straight of me, and the next walk, nearby, but across of me. This person was exactly like me. The same haircut, the same jacket, brown, the same pants, the same way I'm walking. And I was shocked. I stopped and I watch it. He cannot see me, but I see him. And he just walked and just gone. Not gone, but just turned around with another street and gone. And since then, I still don't know what's going on. And then my question is, if I or you or us, the humans, if we exist in many other dimensions, does we have the same consciousness, the same intelligence? Do you have any idea?
All I can say is that my understanding is that as a soul, we can be in various realities at the same time. Like the palm of my hand is the oversoul, and the fingers are the aspects of the oversoul. So some people have experienced being in parallel universes where they see themselves living lives and having a different kind of life, making different choices. So I think that's possible. But I also think that we can be possibly visiting different timelines from another higher consciousness, for example, where we could observe ourselves. I don't think we have any real idea about the construct of reality at all, but I certainly think our soul is able to split off into various levels of consciousness and experience many things at we would call the same time. And that could mean parallel universes, different timelines and what have you. Interestingly, I was talking to a 7-year-old that explained that he was from the future and that he was a zeta gray being with 4 digits, and he's come back to this reality and this time. And he didn't explain why, but he said this is, how he understands himself. So this is a 7-year-old explaining that to me. So I think anything is possible, probably way beyond what we can imagine. And it sounds like there was some kind of maybe time loop where you were able to see yourself in a new way without perhaps you going into hypnosis and asking that wise part of you, that higher self or that superconscious, what were you experiencing? And maybe you'd get your answer there. And that might be, Ivan, how you could get it explained to you.
Yeah. In this point of talking, so when we die, I mean, when our physical body die,
Yeah.
did we die in the other dimensions?
I can't answer that one, but maybe I would say to somebody who meditates or goes deeply into that wise, more aware part of themselves, their superconscious, they could ask that question and say, you know, do other aspects? I suspect not. I suspect just because we've left this reality doesn't mean that we've left these other realities, that we are also partly our soul is interacting with. It may be, you know, what was interesting when I was talking to one lady that saw herself in another parallel reality, she had children, she had a completely different life and what have you, but very much related to the fact it was her. So maybe, you know, each one has a different timeline. So I suspect it's more like that, rather than we all get extinguished and all end up as one oversoul.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, you meet with a lot of people and communicating with a lot of people. What was the most fascinating case you had lately?
Oh, lately, I'm glad that you said that, because there's so many that are extraordinary, and it's really hard to say. One of the things that I'm finding is really bringing this to the fore now is the reality for so many people. And to give you an example, is I've got a family that I think is extraordinary because they all tap into another life in Egypt. There's 8 children and mother and father. They all connect to a time in Egypt. And every one of the children are drawing the beings that they're interacting with. And the eldest daughter has, I think she's drawn or painted now over 250 to 300 beings that she's interacting with at this time. And why I picked that one is because we're finding more and more the tie in to other lifetimes, either on this planet or other planets, and they've come and incarnated at this time for a certain reason, a certain purpose, a certain mandate for this awakening of consciousness here. And that's what I find is becoming really fascinating, is the reality is becoming a lot clearer for many people. It's no longer, you know, wishy-washy, airy-fairy. It's actually very tangible and very real. And the whole family communicate with animals, communicate with plants and crystals, dolphins and what have you. So we've got a whole family that not only interact in a more broader consciousness level, but also relate back to a lifetime, the mother particularly in Egypt, and feeling that she's communicating with that other aspect of her in Egypt at this present moment. So she's got that communication going, even though that's her other timeline and a past life, if you like, where she's still having that communication between the other aspect of herself. That's what I think is now becoming the most important part of this whole contact, is the consciousness aspect of it, where we're starting to see beyond the UFOs into consciousness is primary to what we're being taught and learning.
So, I mean, after all these years, I think probably you're much more sensitivity, or your consciousness is much more higher than any other people. Have you ever had some kind of paranormal experience, or first, I mean, interacting with some multidimensional beings or extraterrestrial?
Yeah, but not consciously on the craft. Although I've been told they've seen me up there, but I haven't looked human. I also have learned how to communicate with other intelligences. And I learned this probably about 25 years ago, that everyone has that ability. And that's the important thing I've discovered, is that we all have the ability to work with our multidimensional self, we just dismiss it often, or we don't trust it because we've been taught not to trust it. Our program in the Western world is anything beyond the physical can't be trusted, which is rubbish, because we need to tap into the multidimensional to understand the physical. So I learned how to communicate with other intelligences, and I have done for many, many years. And also to recognize other information as it comes in, whether or not it's from somebody's past life. I can be shown things, I can be given information about them, I can be shown in a kind of video screen more about them if I want it, but I can help others to do the same, because we all have that ability. This is not something that's unique to one person. It's just that it's shut down. And one of the reasons people contact me is because they're opening up like that. Their intuition is expanded. They're getting downloads of information. They want to know they're not crazy. So how do they manage that? And I can give them tools and show them how I've learned to manage it. And so in other words, it's like you've got your 3D here and you're multidimensional, and you work in harmony with both. Otherwise, you're going around with one eye closed. And we need both. We need the multidimensional to explain the physical. So in other words, have I, sorry, I've got a throat in my throat at the moment. Have I interacted? I believe astrally, very likely. I've had some unusual experiences where I've been out. I went to Tepoztlan, where Carlos Diaz saw the light ships. And I was with a group where we meditated in a field where he'd seen the light ships. And what was interesting was we had a guy filming us, a professional filmmaker. And we're in the meditation, there was only about 7 of us. And I remember meditating and getting very cross because I thought the filmmaker was shining a light down the center of the meditation. And I got really cross. I wish he'd go away because I'm trying to meditate. And when we came out of it, he was at the other end of the field. He was terrified because we'd been surrounded by this fog, and he got very, very uncomfortable. He wasn't there at all. But I and 2 other people saw this bright light right in the center of our group or whatever. And there's no doubt something happened there. And I've had a few other things like that happen. I've got no doubts, though. I've seen plenty of craft. I've got no doubts that we all are being assisted. And this is global. And there are many people that don't realize what they're experiencing actually is contact.
So, intuition is the first step, looks like, to start wondering, to start looking around, searching. The first step of the psychic ability, kind of. And you said that everybody can do that, but with few words, what exactly they have to do?
Well,
to unlock this ability.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's starting to listen to your intuition, that knowing, that sensing, that feeling, you know, where you just know that today's going to, you've got to be careful when you go out in the car today because it doesn't feel right. Taking notice of that is the start of you honoring more of your multidimensional self. Some people will start to feel presences or see orbs of light. If you meditate, then there's more of a chance of these intelligences working through you, because when we meditate, we go into a more relaxed space. Our left brain gets pushed out the way, and we're more receptive then to information coming in. So that's by meditating, you can open it up. Some people open it up because they do shamanic exercises, for example. Or some open it up because they're doing energy healing or that kind of thing, and they'll start to feel presences and whatever. So these practices open you up. Some people have started to see non-human intelligences and have interactions after a near-death experience or an out-of-body experience or by learning remote viewing. A lot of different shamanic practices. All these things can open you up, not only to, well, some would say the angelic realm or ascended masters, elementals, but also to non-human intelligences as well. They're all in the same same field, if you like. They've just got different frequencies, and you can tap into all of that. But it's becoming aware of your intuition. It's becoming aware of those messages, those feelings, those knowings, the synchronicities. But I was very fortunate that I worked with it within a group over 3 years. And we did everything from remote healing to connecting to what I call the team, your own spiritual team, whether you call them the spirit guides or whatever. And it's just a matter of getting to know the difference between yourself and some other information that's coming in. In left brain, you think before you speak. In right brain, you speak before you think, because you're not allowing your left brain to get in the way. So when you put out something, I want to know this, and an answer comes in, that's either that super conscious part of you, or it could very well be one of your spiritual support team saying, oh, she's receptive, and put in some information. If you listen to that more and more, that will open up, because that's all it is it's without thought. Left brain is you, right brain is your multidimensional self. And if it comes in without thought, then you're tapping into that multidimensional consciousness or other intelligences that work with you. And it's identifying. The next thing is, who are they? Why are they with me? Why are they helping me? And all those questions can be done in a session to actually show people how they tap into their clairvoyance, their clairaudience, and their clairsentience. It's not hard. You can do that within a couple of hours with someone who is already starting to open up, just showing them how it works, because they've lost confidence in the operating system. If you like, they just need to be reminded about how it works. And then, oh, so that's what they're doing. That's how it happens. Yeah. And how do you know it's not your imagination is the question that they ask me. And I say it's very simple, because if something's real, like your bedroom, you know where the bed is, you know where the window is, you know where the door is, because it's your bedroom and it's real. If I said to you, create a bedroom or imagine a bedroom, you'd have to think to create it. You'd have to think, well, I'd need how big would the room be? Where would I put the window? Where would I put the door? Where would I put the bed? So if something's coming in instantly without thought, it's not your imagination. It's actually you tapping into your superconscious, your higher self, or one of these intelligences. And then it's asking questions. So who are you? Why are you with me? And if the information comes in spontaneously, instantly, then you know you're communicating. It's really not rocket science. It's actually really easy. It's just people don't realize how easy.
And definitely that will be impossible for skeptical people.
The skeptical people don't understand that we've been programmed out of this awareness. Right from the very beginning, we're told you're going crazy, or there's something wrong with you, or it's weird and wonderful. You know, you can't trust that. And it's all to stop us accessing this information that's actually available once we trust it. It's all there. And people will have, and it's accurate. That's the thing that people don't realize, is that they will get accurate information once they learn to know how the other part of them works. But it's about, you know, giving yourself the chance to do that. And most people are afraid to, because they're afraid, oh, I'm going to go crazy if I do that. No, you're not. You're actually going to make sense of a lot of the physical stuff that you don't understand, because you haven't accessed that part of you that understands what's going on in the physical from your multidimensional self. So it's about just understanding the difference.
Okay. Are you able to recognize different kind of manifestations of this phenomena?
Because I've learned how to trust and work that way, I'll ask questions. So I could say, if someone comes to me and they've got a query or whatever that I can't answer, I'll say, what do I need to understand? And then it will be there for me. And then I'll say to the person, does this make sense to you? And 9 times out of 10, it will resonate. And they'll say, yeah, absolutely, that helps me. But what I prefer doing with all of this, Ivan, is showing someone how to do it for themselves. So I can say, okay, let's ask that wise part of you, that inner resonance. What comes to you when we ask that question? And they'll say, well, this is what I get. And I'll say, does that make sense to you? And they usually say, yes, it does. It resonates. It makes sense to me. Right. Well, there's your answer. Because we all can do this. It isn't just the isolated person here and there. Everyone has the capacity to do it. They've just got to learn to work with it and trust it. And the more they do that, the more it will work for them.
I want to share with you only two events happening with me. And actually, the question I have, I need to know who exactly tried to interact with me. So I went to Starbucks. I purchased water and other things, put it in my table. In the Starbucks, there was only two people in another table too far from me. And then the bottled water just disappeared. I talked with a friend here from Utah. He is doing different kind of experiments. He has a lab. He said, "Oh, it's okay. That happened with me often." Okay, but who are they? Why they took my water?
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay. I can buy another water. The other situation, when I'm not doing my casual work, I'm doing Uber. This is an online taxi.
Yeah.
So I pick up one man and I have to drop him to some hotel in Salt Lake. And we we stand waiting for green light to go straight. And we talk all the time talking. And for the time we waiting, I heard behind me in the back seat, he was up front to me, next to me, this gentleman.
Yeah.
And I heard two person is laughing. And I said, this is impossible. I'm just thinking in my mind.
Yeah.
And this man who was next to me, he said, who is laughing in your back seats? I said, there's nobody there. And then I said, okay, I'm not crazy. Now he also heard something, the same thing I heard.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's time to time something happening to me. And my question is, who is interacting with me? Who tried to pick up my attention? So that's why I asked you if you're able to recognize or classify these different kind of manifestations.
What I'd say to you is we all, I believe, have a spiritual team. And usually there's one, what I call the life guide, gatekeeper, and other spiritual intelligences that support us through our lives, giving us, synchronicities and strange things. Usually it's to gain our attention. When they start to do things like that, it's like saying, are you taking notice now? Because we're here. You see what I mean? It's like they're trying to get you to be more conscious of the fact that you are supported by, what I call the team, the spiritual team or whatever. And usually it's because they're saying that you're ready to start opening up more and start interacting more consciously. That's usually a kind of wake up call to say, we're here. How much evidence do you want? We're here, and there's often those little nudges that people get. And it's all part of their way of saying, it's time for you to connect to us. It's time for you to acknowledge us and know that we're here working with you. Because my belief is that we're all being assisted to upgrade into a greater consciousness, because they work with that higher consciousness and they want to bring humanity up to that point as well. And so this is all part of the kind of activity they'll do to get us to wake up and to start being more proactive about connecting to them. That's my feeling and my sense anyway.
Last December, I was in New Orleans for my work. New Orleans in the US.
Yeah.
And I finished my work and I just walking in the street and I heard voice. I think it's male voice.
Yeah.
Who called my name. like Ivan, Ivan, and then looking around, nobody. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody in. And usually people call me Ivan,
Yeah.
but this voice call me in my name like Ivan, Ivan. It's very, I mean, very cool. I mean, very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Um, and I look around and I cannot see anybody. I not was scared, but in this time I start wondering who is this voice? Why is calling me? And I forgot to make another two-way talk or something to say who
Yeah.
are you? I mean,
Yeah.
nice to meet you or something like this.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about this. I just wondering about this voice.
Well, Ivan, as far as I'm concerned, that could very well be, if you actually tap into it, you can say, well, who are you? Why do you want to connect with me? And it will be the first thing that you get coming in, because it's
Right.
just getting to know how it works. So I would be saying, okay, so why are you wanting to talk to me? Who are you? And whatever comes in instantly, and it needs to come in before your thought, before you can
Mhm.
think something. So it's got to
Yeah.
be instant. If it's not instant, then you're creating it. You're thinking of an answer. So anything that, I'm sure you've experienced information in your head that you haven't consciously learned. It's suddenly there. And you're thinking, oh, where did that come from? Oh, that's wise, Well, it's usually them. You've been receptive, you've been in a good state of receptivity, and they've just plonked in the information. Well, they'll do more of that the more you're proactive about it. And if somebody's doing that, it's probably one of your team saying, it's time he woke up. It's time we got him, understanding he can communicate with us and whatever. Often
Yeah.
these are little wake up nudges to nudge you and say, it's time you got that part of you working.
Hmm. Um, so for many years, there was some psychic people says, yeah, we're going to have a global contact this year. We're going to have a global
Yeah,
contact next year.
yeah,
But I watched one documentary movie for gentleman from North Carolina,
yeah,
and he has, and not only him, his kids, they have similar experience and contact. They really saw being from
yeah,
another world is not human.
yeah,
So the father, he continued have these contacts and he developed some kind of not exactly healing abilities from him. He don't know how,
yeah,
but
yeah.
when he just ask, say, please save this. For example, his dog.
Mm,
Somebody tried to kill the dog with knife, and
um,
dog was dead. Basically, a lot of blood stuff, and because the connection between dog and him was very strong, and he was so disappointed, so sad, and he said, I said, please save my dog. And almost immediately after that, the whole of the neck of the dog was completely
wow,
healed, covered, and dog stand up and start walking around.
wow.
So this gentleman, he said in this interview, he said we can expect huge contact 2026. Do you have any information or heard from another people to say that?
Yes, there's one. I'm just trying to think. There's someone that's been on lots of the UFO channels saying that he had contact with a lady being that had said,
Actually, yes, he talking about this lady. I don't know if it's
"Yeah,
the same.
that's the one. That's the one." But there's been others that saying in the next year or so we're going to have contact. There's been others that have said this as well. So I honestly think that something that's been interesting with all the experiences that have been in touch with me, many have got this sense, this feeling, this anticipation that something big is going to happen very soon, almost like we're in a kind of holding space, you know, treading water, waiting for this event to occur. And I really believe something really big is going to occur, and it's going to change everything that we understood about our reality. And I'm convinced it will happen.
Christian world, they expecting second coming of Jesus.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you heard about Mormons, LDS Church.
Yeah. Yes.
There's one of the apostles years ago. I tried to quote at him because my mind is open and I'm looking everywhere for in collecting this big picture to create the picture to see how is it. He said, his name is Maxwell. He passed away. He said once in one of his speech, he said, we know that God create a lot of worlds. We don't know how many are they, but we're not alone in this universe.
Yeah.
And I heard exactly maybe the same statement from another people. And then I start asking myself, okay, Christ is Christ, aliens is aliens.
Yeah.
But looks like both of this stuff, they work together. They have some connection. We cannot deny Jesus or aliens. There's some connection. Maybe that contact will be at different levels, maybe spiritual level and physical level. And maybe, I don't know if everybody, I mean, according to the Bible, everybody will see Jesus when he's coming for a second time. But when I'm thinking for the other side, for the other perspective, I think that maybe this contact will be only for the people who are already prepared for that. I mean, like consciously.
Yeah.
But what do you think? Or that will be for everybody, like open contact for everybody, global?
Well, I believe that the whole globe, our planet, is being, if you like, targeted by these higher frequencies. And I think it's going to be more about what the soul is ready for, what the soul wishes to experience on this planet. So some are saying, yes, I want to experience that in this particular incarnation. There may be some souls that say, no, I want to stay with the 3D frequency for longer because that's what my soul wants to experience and whatever. So I think it's going to be more about what the soul has agreed to or consented to as part of their spiritual journey on this planet. But look, that's just my thoughts. I don't know for sure.
Well, we talked for many interesting topics. What will be your conclusion of all of this? Address to everybody who is watching it.
All I'd like to say to people is that we're in a fascinating time, I believe, in planet Earth's spiritual history, for want of a better word. I think we're at a very crucial point in the level of consciousness on this planet. And I am convinced that all these new beings that are coming to the planet now, the new generations of human that have been coming in the last 100 to 200 years or whatever, are all here to help this wonderful planet and all the beings on it, whatever they're, animals and humans and plants and everything else, are here to experience something really incredible in terms of transformation, because I think that what we're seeing as the chaos at the moment is a precursor to something really amazing. And I've often quoted this gentleman, his Command Sergeant Robert Dean, who died a few years ago, who was very much involved as one of the forefronts of ufology, admitted he'd been on board craft in his latter years before he died. And he explained that he was shown our future. And he said, it is absolutely magnificent that we're going to have this most amazing, wonderful future as humanity. And that's what I'm hanging on to and believe will happen.
This is very cool, nice and sweet future, looks like. Mary, I'm so happy to meet you again, to talk with you. Thank you for your time. I'll be super happy if you have a trip to US, or I would like to come to Australia also one day to meet you and to meet all these cool people over there. Thank you very much, and I wish you a beautiful summer or spring or whatever.
Thank you, Ivan, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.